Some critics of Congressman Madison Cawthorn are accusing him of trying to incite another insurrection.
It comes after a speech the congressman made over the weekend at a Macon County GOP event.
News 13's Caitlin Pinter spoke with people from both sides to get their perspective as she breaks down his speech.
The congressman's speech put a lot of focus on unfounded claims of election fraud. At one point, Representative Madison Cawthorn called the people facing charges for the January 6th insurrection political prisoners.
The things that we are wanting to fight for, it doesn't matter if our votes don't count. Exactly. Because, if our election systems continue to be rigged and continue to be stolen, then it's going to lead to one place, and it's bloodshed.
Critics of NC District 11 Representative Madison Cawthorn call this language he used in Macon County violent and dangerous.
I will tell you, as much as I am willing to defend our liberty at all costs, there's nothing that I would dread doing more than having to pick up arms against a fellow American.
At one point during his speech, one of Cawthorn's supporters seems to allude to January 6th, a day that started with a crowd of Trump supporters protesting the 2020 election results that later turned into a violent insurrection of the U.S. Capitol.
When are you going to call us to Washington again?
We are actively working on that one. I don't have an answer for that one right yet. But, ma'am, we are actively working on this. We have a few plans in motion that I can't make public right now.
I think we would all prefer to see Cawthorn have responded differently, to say that we don't need another January 6th.
The chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party said in part in a statement to News 13 that the NC GOP must promptly condemn this reprehensible behavior. Do you believe that there could be another insurrection, and do you support that?
Well, of course, I would never support what we saw in the acts of violence on January 6th from those who were not there to peacefully protest.
NC District 11 GOP chairwoman Michelle Woodhouse says she was at the event when the speech happened.
There was no call to action by Congressman Cawthorn nor anyone there in Macon County for any type of insurrection.
So when this man says, when you're going to call us to Washington again, and he says we're actively working on that, what does Madison Cawthorn mean when he says call us back to Washington? To do what then?
Well, I think that'd be a question specifically for the congressman.
Cawthorn's office did not do an interview, but did provide a statement saying in his comments, Congressman Cawthorn is clearly advocating for violence not to occur over election integrity questions. He fears others would erroneously choose that route and strongly states that election integrity issues should be resolved peacefully and never through violence.
I highly recommend, as much fun as we have target shooting, we all need to be storing up some ammunition.
Cawthorn's office also told News 13 that Congressman Cawthorn was referring to actively working on getting answers about political prisoners following January 6th. Nothing else. They say he is not actively working on any protest or plan to bring people to Washington. They say to assert otherwise would completely take his remarks out of context.
$1.7 billion. That's the amount of federal funding from the CARES Act that came to 16 mountain counties.
It's a small slice of the $50 billion North Carolina received. News 13 is investigating how that money was spent and who was helped.
Investigative reporter Jennifer Emmert digs into the impact from local businesses to government and why the state's auditor says there may be no way to ensure tax dollars weren't misused.
Squeeze right between squeeze.
COVID-19 applied pressure to businesses, including the YMCA of Western North Carolina.
Early in the pandemic, we had to lay off several hundred of our employees.
Just like trainer Jessica helps Marcy manage her injury.
Look, I'm a healer.
$3.9 million in federal Paycheck Protection Program funding has been therapy to Tim Blanco's balance sheet.
That has been a critical lifeline to keep us afloat and to keep our doors open.
The Y also got a slice of $19 million in state coronavirus relief funds to keep the mountain economy beating.
We know that we have a role to play in our community's ability to recover economically, and parents need to know that you have safe, reliable, and affordable childcare. Programs like PPP and ERTC have been essential to getting us to reopen our doors and provide the services that we are today.
The Y is just one example of how small doses of the $1.7 billion was put to work. Across 16 mountain counties, the funding can be broken down into 5 areas. $1.2 billion went to businesses in the way of PPP and job retention grants. $218 million went to education, K through 12 and higher ed. $165 million went to regional hospitals and healthcare providers. $32.7 million went to local governments. And the smallest amount, nearly $23 million, went to families in the way of extra credit grants.
Why should people care about how this money gets spent?
Because absolutely every dime of it is your federal tax dollars.
22 federal inspectors general with the U.S. Pandemic Response Accountability Committee and the North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office, along with the state auditor's office, are ensuring those tax dollars are used effectively and efficiently.
Our real focus has been to help the local governments, the counties, as well as the municipalities that have received the funds.
NC Pro distributed and provided oversight for 32.7 million mountain governments received in coronavirus relief funds.
That was relief focused. It was very short-term focused. It had to be COVID related, but there was some flexibility.
Here's how it worked. Counties submitted a plan, then monthly spreadsheets or reports showing the millions spent.
We did numerous sessions to make sure that they understood that this is what the funds were used for. Anytime Treasury changed their guidance, we made sure that they understood that as well.
The state auditor's office didn't wait until the money was spent to see if the state and local governments were being accountable. The audit uncovered shortfalls in verifying local government invoices and payroll records to what they claimed to be spending.
Do you worry that some of those funds then given to local governments, state agencies, because it was just self-reporting, could have been misused?
Absolutely. Some of it intentionally, and then some of it inadvertently.
Has your office started some of those audits yet?
We have begun audits of all those entities, and they have also begun their single audits with their external auditors.
Still, none of the mountain's 16 counties have been audited. While county governments face upcoming oversight, the YMCA has dodged any issues. It's one of over 5.6 million businesses meeting federal verification requirements for PPP forgiveness.
When we got that first forgiveness, it was a big relief knowing that, essentially it converted at that moment from a loan to a grant.
They're using a second round of PPP to continue the recovery, which includes getting members back.
So it's not really how we're going to fare, today, tomorrow, next month. It's next year and the year after that.
That oversight will continue through the end of 2021. That's when NC Pro's funding ends. It's likely, however, that will be extended. Tomorrow, I investigate how coronavirus funds were used to pay salaries for library assistants and park rangers, how the counties track their spending, and in some instances, denied purchases.
Black Americans saw the second highest increase in drug overdose deaths compared to all other racial groups from 2018 to 2020. That's according to the Kaiser Family Foundation.
An Asheville community leader and his niece say it's crucial we address the opioid crisis with equity in mind. Anjali Patel has more in this week's Addicted America.
According to health policy think tank the Kaiser Family Foundation, Black Americans saw the second highest increase in drug overdose death rates compared to all other racial and ethnic groups between 2018 and 2020. And an Asheville community leader and his niece say it is crucial we address the opioid crisis through an equity lens. Brittany Weston's struggle with drugs began 7 years ago.
I started off with, Percocets, and then it went to the harder stuff.
She was in and out of treatment facilities for years.
And the last time I went, I ended up getting like 4 months clean. And once I thought I was okay, and I ended up relapsing.
She overdosed on fentanyl, her young son in the car with her.
I woke up and it scared me. And I was like, you know what, this is an eye-opener.
Now she's 1 year clean and is working to fill what she and her uncle say is a void in the substance abuse treatment industry. Black and brown people helping other Black and brown people overcome addiction.
There's not enough representation in certain facilities and certain places that looks like us or that has the same life experience that I have. So if I go to a place and I'm looking to go to rehab, I'm looking to get some some inpatient or outpatient treatment, and no one looks like me, probably won't come back.
That's why Michael Hayes founded the Umoja Health, Wellness, and Justice Collective. The organization is helping his niece and others with similar backgrounds become peer support specialists.
It's more than just lack of services. It's lack of being actually seen and being heard.
He knows because he too struggled with substances.
Because there's not enough providers that understand the plight and understand the trauma that happens in the African American community, then you don't see the results.
He and his niece hope their traumas can help others with similar stories triumph.
Thinking about the struggle that I went through and then how I am now, I'm like, yes, I want to help somebody. Somebody needs to hear my story.
Now, Michael Hayes says Umoja has helped train a little over 40 peer support specialists so far, and soon his niece, Brittany Weston, will become one of them.